فاسألوا أهل الذكر إن كنتم لا تعلمون.
Traditionally, fatwa means a judicial response by a qualified jurist known as a mufti or jurisconsult to a question posed by a mustafti. According to the Quran, the Prophet Muhammad was the first and foremost mufti. He was succeeded by generations of jurists and scholars who continued to expand the body of Islamic law through their various individual fatwas.
Kehidupan sebagai umat Islam memerlukan kepada panduan dalam melaksanakan tuntutan agama. Dari segi ibadat kita, dari segi hukum hakam yang berkaitan dengan kehidupan seharian kita, kehidupan ekonomi kita dan sebagainya. Maka para ulama daripada dahulu lagi telah berusaha dengan ijtihad mereka, dengan kemahiran ilmu yang mereka miliki untuk memberikan panduan-panduan hukum dan tata cara kehidupan kepada umat Islam sepanjang zaman.
In Singapore, the Administration of Muslim Law Act provides that the Fatwa Committee comprises the Mufti and 4 other well-respected religious scholars. Fatwa decisions are therefore of a collective nature and not individual. This is known in the Islamic legal tradition as Fatwa Jama'i. To date, 3 Muftis have led the committee. Against the backdrop of a newly independent state confronted with many uncertainties, the fledgling Fatwa Committee had to establish itself as a credible source of religious guidance for the Singapore Muslim community. Most questions in this period were on basic matters of rituals and creed, but also included contentious and more challenging ones, such as the determination of the beginning and end of Ramadan, traditionally done through sighting of the crescent moon.
Pada awal tahun 1974, Jawatankuasa Fatwa MUIS telah berbincang dan memutuskan bahawa penentuan awal Ramadan dan Syawal boleh dibuat dengan cara hisab syar'i di samping tidak menepikan ru'yah sebagai afdal. Dasar hukum bagi keputusan fatwa ini antara lain ialah kaedah yang diguna pakai dalam ilmu fiqh mazhab Syafi'i, iaitu idza ittafaqa ahlul hisab wa kana muqaddimatu qat'iyyah ruddat ash-shahadah.
Wider regional recognition on the use of hisab would develop later. As Singapore's economic growth picked up in the 1980s, the need to grow religious institutions and assets of the Muslim community became more pressing. In this period, there were more questions on zakat and waqaf. To this end, the committee issued a fatwa on istibdal, which allowed the migration of waqaf assets and thus ensured that their potential were optimized. Singapore had also begun building its reputation as a hub for science and technology. Many issues of a scientific nature were raised. For example, in 1983, the Fatwa Committee was asked on in vitro fertilization, or IVF, making it one of the earliest fatwa bodies internationally to explain the matter. As the number of fatwas issued by the Fatwa Committee increased, the first compilation, called the Kumpulan Fatwa, was published in 1987. As the new millennium approached, financial and estate matters became a hit with the Fatwa Committee. This is partly due to the need for individuals to plan their wealth and estate based on unique and changing needs. The Fatwa Committee was committed to find solutions for these families without foregoing principles of the Sharia. One of its suggestions was the equal distribution of the estate between beneficiaries, in accordance with the wishes of the deceased, if consented to by all beneficiaries. In doing so, the Fatwa Committee widened the understanding of inheritance beyond just fara'id. At the same time, more developments unfolded in the biosciences and reproductive science. In 1997, the cloning of Dolly the sheep stole the headlines. The question of Islam's position on cloning was raised. The Fatwa Committee recognized that this was a complex matter. Experts were consulted. The Fatwa Committee considered both religious and ethical aspects and concluded that only qualified therapeutic cloning could be permitted. Hence on, the Fatwa Committee engages medical experts to solicit their views on various issues, such as the Advanced Medical Directive, euthanasia, and abortion.
Jawatan Kuasa Fatwa menjemput pakar-pakar sains dan teknologi untuk mendapatkan lebih banyak penjelasan dan begitu juga dapat bersemuka dalam memberikan soalan, memberikan pertanyaan dan sebagainya. Dengan itu, Jawatan Kuasa Fatwa akan dapat lebih maklumat, lebih mengetahui sebelum mereka membuat sesuatu keputusan.
The new millennium has seen many transformations in Singapore. With these changes, past fatwas will need to be assessed to determine if they continue to achieve the objectives of Muslim law. A new scheme known as Associate Members of the Fatwa Committee was introduced in 1990, through which a wider pool of younger asatiza from various disciplines were involved in Fatwa Committee discussions. In 1999, the Office of the Mufti was set up to carry out more intensive research and studies on various emerging issues. With a strengthened team, the Fatwa Committee reviewed the fatwas on CPF and insurance nominations. Recognizing that CPF and insurance monies are unique asset types, the Fatwa Committee concluded them as permissible new forms of hibah. Through these fatwas, the committee sought to secure the welfare of dependents. Several other landmark fatwas were also issued in the new decade. These include the fatwa on new water and the inclusion of Muslims under the Human Organ Transplant Act. With an expanded pool of organ donors in Singapore, it allows Muslims to exemplify the Islamic teaching of being rahmatan lil alameen. The development of the Fatwa institution in its history in Singapore is a testimony to the hard work and progressive thinking of its leaders and members over the years. Towards developing progressive religious scholars, MUIS conducted programs with asatiza and pre-university students in local madrasas. The progress in fatwa is also shared with members of the Muslim public through seminars and conferences, as well as with practitioners and Muslim scholars at regional and international levels.
Fatwa yang berwibawa itu, yang berkredibiliti, ialah fatwa yang mengambil kira perkembangan ilmu yang wujud dalam bidang-bidang yang hendak diperkatakan. Institusi fatwa yang berwibawa harus memahami bahawa bukan semata-mata peranan mereka, kewajipan mereka untuk memelihara keutuhan beragama, tetapi juga sama penting ialah untuk membawa masyarakat maju ke hadapan.
It is hoped that through such fatwas, MUIS in Singapore will contribute to a progressive and exemplary religious thought for other Muslim communities around the world.